PokeBabs! Hi guys, and welcome back to PokeBabs. Today we are looking at going into round 4 of the August PokeBeach tournament, and we're going up against Elliot for me with a Water, Psychic, and Colorless deck, and that definitely points to Water Toolbox. We'll see if that's the case, but yeah, the Psychic probably just being Hoopa, and the Colorless being Shaman. So we'll see here. We start out with a pretty good hand, honestly. Got a Carbink and a Meditite, and we've got energy as well and a supporter, so pretty good hand there. We'll see what our opponent starts with. It is a Seismitoad, so does look like it's probably going to be Water Toolbox, and we'll see what that means. See if they play stuff like Enhanced Hammer. Could be an interesting matchup. Glaceon could be also interesting if they play Glaceon, because we do attack with mostly evolved attackers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I think Carbink, just plain old Carbink by itself, could be good. Just Power Gem, because they have to hex through it, so we'll see. Should be interesting to see what happens. We do see a Hoopa coming down, Scoundrel Ring grabbing up to 3 EX Pokemon. We see a Manaphy, there's that Glaceon EX, and a Shaman EX. So our opponent's definitely going to look to try and get some Max Elixirs this turn. That's going to go right onto the Glaceon. Another Max Elixir, we'll see if this one hits as well. That one does as well, also going on to Glaceon. So Glaceon could very well be powered up by next turn. We see Shaman coming down, drawing them 4 cards. Let's see if they can get any more Max Elixirs, maybe if they want to play an Energy Switch this turn. We see 1 energy go on to the active Seismitoad and an N. We'll see if we end up with as good of a hand as we had. Maybe another more basics would be good. We see a Regirock and a Meditite. Meditite's nice to have. Professor's Letter also good. Focus Sash. So we may not even play the Sycamore this turn, even though there is a chance of Quaking Punch happening next turn. And we might need to power up something like a Zygarde or a Regirock even, so that we can hit the Glaceon. So we're going to put down the Regirock. We did draw the Floatstone also, so pretty comfortable putting down Regirock. We're going to grab both energies here, and we'll attach one onto Carbink. Excuse me, as well as a Focus Sash, so if they somehow can get off a Grenade Hammer, won't get knocked out. Opting to discard the energy there. Like I said, I'm not sure. I mean, Carbink Break is great, but I think Carbink and Hawlucha could also be a really good attacker. But Carbink for sure, just because it's got Safeguard there. And could play out or more items maybe. I'm not sure if our opponent's going to go the Quaking Punch route or if they're going to go for the Glaceon route. So that should be interesting to see what happens there. Also, Rough Seas will play a factor in this. We aren't going to be able to one-hit a lot. I mean, we aren't going to be able. If we aren't able to one hit, then they can heal a lot of damage. Articuno coming down, that actually will be a big player too, I would imagine. Hitting Carbink with Articuno would be a pretty powerful thing from our opponent. We see an N, and it'll be interesting again, like I said, to see who they attack with this turn. Do they go for a Glaceon? Do they go for Articuno, Seismitoad? What's the best option? We do see a Startling Megaphone coming down, which is good to note. Our Regirock is a little bit susceptible to Lysander. We see an energy going to the active, so that means they're going for the Quaking Punch. It's not going to do any damage to us, but we are a little bit limited now. We'll play Karina, and we'll grab Carbink Break. I think that's the way to go. We do have a strong energy in the discard pile, and the item may not be of much consequence just because we may not be able to play it. So it just depends on it. I mean, it's very possible that when we attack and evolve all these Pokemon, that our opponent switches into Glaceon, so we might then be able to use items once again. So I will evolve into Medicham, and we'll just go for the Diamond Gift. It is only going to do 30 damage, which can be healed with Rough Seas. which is a little unfortunate. I'm going to put the energy onto Carbink again because I know that Glaceon is going to be a major factor in this. And we'll see if we can overcome the Glaceon. Because obviously hitting with Power Gem is not going to do a lot of damage. So it's going to take a long time to rack up damage on a Glaceon. I think a lot's going to come down to our opponent flipping decently well with Articuno as well. So that should be interesting to see. We do see a Fighting Fairy Belt come down onto Seismitoad. And just a Quaking Punch. And we just draw into an AZ, so it's not very helpful. We could attack, but it would just be healed instantly with Rough Seas, so we're going to pass. It's also possible that Deck Out could be a play that we go for if necessary, just because we've got so many Carbinks. But we will see here a Zero-Sick. We could play the Zero-Sick right now, get rid of the Fighting Fairy Belt. At least then it's a card out of our hand in case we get End. So we'll do that and we'll just pass. So if we get Fighting Stadium, we could attack and start doing damage. Although it's not going to be very much damage. Oh yeah, sorry, we didn't attack. There wasn't a strong energy in the discard, just a regular fighting energy. And let's see here. I'm wondering if who's gonna make the first move? You know, are they gonna attack with the Articuno first, or are we gonna get something powered up and be willing to attack with like a Medicham? That's, I think, the big question here. And our opponent seems to be mulling it over a little bit. What is the best route of action to take? And Hex Maniac is definitely going to be a big card in this. So they could play Hex Maniac, which they do right here. And they will be able to take a knockout on Carbink Break. Now, thankfully, we do have 2 more Carbink and Sacred Ash. So we are going to be allowed to play items here, which is really great. We're going to send a Palucha because of free retreat. We get a level ball. We can put down a Focus Sash. This way they can't knock out. So this will force them to do multiple moves in order to knock out a Carbink, which is great. Either multiple Hex Maniacs or a Zero-Sick and a Hex Maniac or a Startling Megaphone. I don't know how many Megaphones they play. Again, I would imagine only one, but I never really know these days. And we're going to play a Battle Compressor, get rid of N because we'd like to play that. We need to get some more energy going, I think. We'll get rid of a Lysander. And I'm not sure what else would be the best option. Could be another supporter, maybe. Maybe another energy would be good, too, actually. Strong energy, perhaps. So, we'll do that, and we will Via Seeker for the N. Hopefully, we will get an energy here. We can start attacking, getting damage on the board, and maybe slowly start to take down our opponent. We do get a Fighting Stadium, which we could put down. Now we can attack for damage with the Carbink. And so that's what we are going to do. We'll Power Gem for 90 damage, I believe. And then I will VS Seeker because we know that there's a chance we get hit by a Quicking Punch next turn. So I'll just VS Seeker for N. Zero-Sick could be another option, but if they bump the stadium where our damage here is going to be fairly... Oh, well, so they didn't put down another Fighting Fairy Belt. So yeah, so we can do 90 twice at the moment. It's possible. So we'll do 90 right here. Or only 80, sorry. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Huh. Well, it doesn't matter because they do get the Rough Seas down. Am I doing math totally wrong? 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Oh, they played Hex Maniac. That was it. So the Regirock did not take effect. And we'll see. They are powering up an Articuno here. I think it'll be very important that when they send up Articuno that we can attack with a Medicham and knock out the Articuno. Unfortunately, we are not there at this point. We do just see a Quaking Punch, though. Not for no damage. And the other thing is that they can just retreat and keep healing over time, even attacking with Manaphy EX if necessary. So we do have to be aware of that. We are just going to Power Gem again, though, because unfortunately we did knock in energy. And this is where things could get dicey if they get an Articuno, perhaps an Articuno with a Fury Belt. That would help their math, because Articuno does 20 plus 40 for each. Or I guess it wouldn't really affect the math, because either way, if it's a Carbink break at least, they need to do 90, which is 2 heads flips. So we see an attack on Regirock. And unfortunately, Regirock is stuck in the active for the moment. We could play Karina, maybe thin our deck out, or we could just wait. I don't think that our Regirock will fall anytime too soon. I opt to just go for the deep Sycamore here, making sure we can get some other attackers going. We also get the AZ, so that was really important. And we can start to power up another Pokemon. So we'll see what we go for here. Halucha could do some good damage, but I don't know. I think Medicham is probably the right option, just because we need to have an answer to an Articuno. So we'll see what happens. Opponent does use Rough Seas. Who are they going to attack with is the question. I think they probably are going to retreat out of the Seismitoad. I would guess. Maybe not. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an awkward matchup because both of us have... So they can heal and we can prevent damage. So we just see a Quaking Punch, which is actually quite nice. We can play AZ. We can also play down a Fighting Stadium. And we'll send up Carbink. We'll put down the Fighting Stadium. And we will use Power Gem for 40. Again, we probably... Let's see, yeah, we couldn't play our items there, so... I don't know, we could have put down the Regirock, but we weren't going to be getting a knockout. We do see a Rough Seas here, so our opponent has 110 damage now. Wow, so maybe the Regirock... Let's see, yeah, so next turn we could... Maybe putting down the Regirock would have been a big deal because they have 70 HP left. We can do 60 right now with Power Gem, but we do draw into Regirock. So unless our opponent if our opponent does not retreat, we could take a knockout with a Power Gem next turn. So it should be interesting to see what they opt to do. They are down 2 Rough Seas, and they've got, well, 3 if you count the one on the field. So... presumably they do play 4, though. They will most likely beat us in the Stadium War most times unless they have to discard early. But yeah, this game does provide some sorts of awkward situations. Unfortunately, we are running low on time in terms of the amount of cards we have left in our deck. So if our opponent keeps healing, we might run into a deck out type of situation for ourselves. We see the Articuno come up, and it's going to be pretty big if they can get this knockout. They do need 2 heads. We see 1 and only 1 heads here. Now, this is good. We do get to play items, but we do also... Wow, so we get the energy. So we could attack with a Medicham this turn, doing 50... 60 set. We could do 60 with the Regirock, so we can actually take a knockout on this Articuno, which I think is a pretty big deal here. And our opponent could knock us out in return, but I just don't see that as being all that worrisome necessarily. I'm trying to decide what energy to discard here. If we discard a strong energy, then that way we're not as susceptible to hammer, which is nice. We'll put down the Regirock and a Floatstone. We'll also put down a Focus Sash so that we can survive an extra turn. And we're just going to go for the Yoga Kick, which should do 60 twice, which is enough to knock out this Articuno. And can our opponent get another attacker set, or can our opponent get another Articuno set up? That would be interesting. I'm not sure how many they play. We got a Hex Maniac. Hex Maniac is helpful because in this matchup, although it would shut off our Safeguarders, it also shuts off Aqua Tube, allowing them to retreat freely between Pokemon. And now we see this is where the Glaceon comes up, and it will be doing 70 damage. Unless they get a Fighting Fury Ball, it will be doing 70 damage with Crystal Ray, which will make it so that evolved Pokemon cannot damage it in the following turn. See a Zero Set getting rid of the strong energy, so it may be important for us to get another Carbink breakout right as soon as possible. We've got 3 strong and 1 fighting in the discard. I'm just counting my energy here. We've got 3 strong and 3 fighting played so far. So we do have another strong and a couple more fighting. We get a Sycamore, but we can't really play that because only 8 cards left in deck. Could go for a Karina here. We could also go for the double Calm Mind, making it so they can only take a knockout if they have a Fighting Fury Belt. Take a knockout on Medicham, that is. And hope to draw into the energy, or into the Carbink break that we need. I'm not sure if, I can't remember if Zygarde is in the deck, but like I said, Zygarde could be useful in this matchup. But yeah, it would be nice to VS Seeker for a Karina, although I want to save my Versus Seekers for ends if necessary for late game. We actually, the 2 breaks are in the discard, so we do need to Sacred Dash if we haven't already played Sacred Dash. So, just kind of in a tight spot, opting to just go for the double Calm Mind play. Now, if our opponent does have a Fighting Fury Belt, this game may be a loss for us. We'll see if they have another Fighting Fury Belt. They are going to Rough Seas, healing that Seismitoad 30 more damage. And we do see the Fighting Fury Belt come down onto Glaceon, which unfortunately means Crystal Ray will get a knockout. And yeah, I don't really know what we can do at this point. I mean, it is 5-4 on prizes. It's not a huge lead that they have, but I think just in terms of time left in the match, it's definitely not in our advantage. So I think Karina's the right play, but I don't really know how we will really be able to knock out this Glaceon without them healing and just stalling for time. I'm having a hard time seeing our long-term outs. So, would be good, though, to just maybe figure out what all is in our opponent's deck if we are going to concede the game. Let's see, we've got 2 energy left. We do have that Sacred Ash, which is we definitely need. And we could grab Pokemon, but I don't really want to draw cards out of my deck at this point, and none of those Pokemon are ones that we want. So yeah, unfortunately, the Zygarde is prized. I think that is a pretty big deal, just because we don't have any attackers, or we don't have any basic attackers besides Regirock and Hawlucha at the moment, and to an extent Carbink. So I will Ultra Ball here to grab the Carbink break, and we'll start to power up something. We could probably, I think powering up the Carbink is probably the best option. But again, we could power up a Regirock. don't think it's going to be doing enough damage. So we will Power Gem, putting 2 strong energy onto Carbink, which, again, without Rough Seas would be decent, because we would be able to do 90 damage per turn. But with Rough Seas and being able to Aqua Tube Retreat, I think that we just don't have enough time left. I don't know, 10 cards in deck. Our opponent could put themselves in a situation where they might deck out, so that'll be interesting if they overextend a bit. We see a Hex Maniac, though, which will allow them to get a knockout on Carbink Break. And I think that's pretty devastating. They are going to go down to 2 prizes. We can attack with Carbink, but again, once they get to a position where their Glaceon is in danger of being knocked out, they can just retreat and start attacking with something else. We will retreat into that Carbink, though, and Power Gem for 80 because of the Hex Maniac once again. We are not hitting for 90. We see the Rough Seas. And like I said, I just think Rough Seas is too strong at this point. But we will see what happens. Another Water Energy going on to Seismitoad. Making sure they have another attacker. They can Quake and Punch at any point. We do have our last VS Seeker in hand. And yeah, just not a great position. Maybe a good route to in the future for the next game would be going after Manaphy EX. Using our Lysanders more efficiently. We weren't ever really quite able to get it set up, though, as I would like. You know, we got 1 Medicham set up in the entire game, which is far from ideal. And what is our opponent going to do here? They did retreat in Rough Seas, though. And what's coming? Probably another Crystal Ray, making it so we couldn't attack with an evolved Pokemon like Carbink Break, which we do have one in our deck at the moment. And alright, just a Crystal Ray to protect themselves. We'll go for another Power Gem. Like I said, I just don't think we're going to have enough time. We are doing 90. And, you know, if I did decide to go for a Hex Maniac, unfortunately, it would shut off our own safeguard, which just really isn't an option. Even though it would allow them to, I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird, right? So it would force them to keep the same Pokemon in the active. We could have maybe taken a knockout on Glaceon. I don't know if that is enough to change the tides of the game. Perhaps it could have been. But at this point, they've retreated, and they're fairly safe. And we're just running out of deck. I'm contemplating Ultra Ball here. We go for Ultra Ball. The only real option here is Carbink Break. And we can Diamond Gift to power up a Regirock. But again, I think it's just a case of too little too late. We see more healing from our opponent. I'm assuming they will be attaching the energy and retreating. Ultra Ball coming first. What are they going to get out here? This might show us a little bit more about their deck. Maybe if they have another Articuno or multiple Glaceon even. Or perhaps they won't grab anything out of their deck. They grab a Regice, which probably won't really matter this game. But it could be important if we do try to go for attacking with Zygarde or Regirock. And okay, Articuno and 2 water energies. So I do have energy left. And I see energy attachment onto Shaman. Probably going to see a retreat into Glaceon. Or maybe a Seismitoad even. Oh, see actually a Lysander. And then a retreat into Glaceon. We'll use Crystal Ray to take a knockout. And now we will be attacking with Regirock. Going to do a 120 there. We could have used a VS Seeker for a Zero Sick, which would have allowed us to get a knockout there. Maybe that would have been the right play. Not sure. Not sure really. But yeah, with 4 cards left in deck, it's just getting a little tough. We're probably going to receive a retreat into Seismitoad. They could Grenade Hammer here. We also have to be worried about Glaceon's first attack second bite, because it will do 10 damage plus 10 for each damage counter already on us. Just waiting to see what our opponent does here. I would imagine they just retreat and go for the Grenade Hammer. I'm not sure what they are contemplating. Maybe they have an energy. Nope. We actually just see a Crystal Ray. So we can take a knockout here, and then, but then Seismitoad would come in and take a knockout on us. And we, unfortunately, because we evolved into Carbink Break, we can't actually knock out the, or we can't use Power Gem for a knockout. And that might be the final nail in the coffin there. We could Power Gem, power up a Carbink, hope to extend the game a little bit. But with only straight fighting energies in the discard, it's gonna get difficult real soon. And again, if we retreat, then we lose to Lysander. So I'm gonna bring up Shaman. Going to retreat into Carbink, and if we Diamond Gift, it is enough for a knockout, even with resistance. We do put 2 fighting energy onto Regirock. But, yeah, like I said, a VS Seeker would be a win. VS Seeker for Lysander would be a win. And we see an Ultra Ball, okay. So they do play 2 Manaphy, which is expected, at least 2 Manaphy. Question is, do they get anything with this? They do not. We see a Fighting Fury Bolt come down onto Seismitoad EX. A Shaman coming down. Maybe they are digging for that last VS Seeker. bringing them down to 5 cards. And we see GG from our opponent. Assuming that means that they have the Lysander. Yes, so they have a VS Seeker for the Lysander. So we're going to lose that game 1. I think there may have been some opportunities where I could have played VS Seeker. We definitely could have got the knockout on the Glaceon. That might have been a big deal. We still would have been susceptible to Lysander at that point because Seismitoad could attack us twice. So that was always something that we had to be aware of. I think, against Seismitoad, sometimes you get forced into discarding a bunch of item cards that are important, like Versus Seeker and maybe even Focus Sash. And so that type of thing can hurt us. So we'll go on to game 2 here, see what we can do. Can we pull off a couple wins and take the series? We are going to go first. Starting Hawlucha, which is nice. And our hand's looking pretty good. We will be able to get an energy attachment this turn. We'll get a Meditite down. We could get down a Regirock. We see our opponent not happy with their start. But, I don't want to help their hand, but we don't really have anything. We could wait 1 turn, perhaps, but then we wouldn't be able to get a Carbink out. We could also play a Hex Maniac, and that could put us in an interesting situation or force our opponent into an interesting situation, but if they can get the knockout turn 2, then that would be really disappointing. Opting not to put down the... Wow, so that was maybe a mistake, opting not to put down the Meditite. I didn't want to put it down and have it get knocked out really quickly without us getting anything on it, but probably would have been better to just put it down. Now we're going to Battle Compressor, though. Make sure that next turn, if we survive the turn, which hopefully we do, make sure that we can get Supporter. Just discard those 2. And we'll VS Seeker. We could get either N or Sycamore. I'm going to opt for the Sycamore, I think. And, yeah, we definitely could get donked this turn, so... And I tell my opponent, you're telling me. Yeah, I think we are the one who is in the worst situation here. Our opponent would need to do 70 damage. They've got a few different ways of doing it. But I think that they either need 2 Max Elixirs, an Energy Attachment, and a Energy Switch, or 3 Max Elixirs. We see them miss a Max Elixir there, which is a real relief for sure. Discarding a Water Energy and a Hex, and we see just a Shaman, which makes sense. They do not have Hoopa at their disposal at the moment. Will they play any other cards down? First, they do play an Energy onto Hoopa, which makes sense. We see a setup for 6. We're bringing them up to 6 cards in hand. Manaphy coming down, which is a key part of this whole thing. A Max Elixir, also missing. So I think we're pretty much out of the woods unless they hit 2 Max Elixirs. And we will see here. We see a Professor Sycamore. Okay. Doesn't seem too bad. We do see another Max Elixir, this one hitting. If they get yet another Max Elixir, we would be... Alright, so we just see a pass, so that's good. And we'll use Darling Megaphone while we still can. And we could attach the energy, but I think what we're going to do is we're just going to Sycamore here. And unfortunately, we still do not get a basic Pokemon, which is terrifying. Wow. Maybe it would have been better to get a Karina, but I wanted to make sure that I had a supporter that we could draw some cards with. So, still no basics, no Focus Sash even to make sure that we could hopefully survive a turn. Yeah, this is just kind of a nightmare situation. we basically just have to hope that somehow they don't get off a Grenade Hammer next turn, and I'm not really sure how likely that is. They have already gone through um, three Max Elixirs, so all they need actually really is just an attachment and an energy switch would be enough for them to win. We see Fighting Fairy Belt coming down. Do they have the energy switch? They would have to retreat and then energy switch. And then that would be all it takes. We see a VS Seeker for Sycamore. And yeah, our opponent really doesn't need... All they really need at this point is an energy switch. Can they get the energy switch? We see a Super Rod. So presumably they do not have an energy switch in hand. Or else they would have played it. We see a retreat. And just a Quaking Punch. Wow, so we did survive yet another turn, but we are probably going to be forced to discard a bunch of stuff we don't want to discard. Sadly. Again, this is kind of what got us in a bad situation in Game 1. We do, thankfully, though, get a Carbink. We do get a Meditite. We have a Medicham in hand. We could set up here, I think, maybe now better than any other time. Unfortunately, we can't play our items because we are under Quaking Punch lock. We will set up for 2. We do get an energy. We already played down an energy this turn, but we do get an energy, which is good. And Quaking Punch could be a big problem at this point. We will Flying Press, which does 80. Which right now is a 3-hit knockout, assuming they don't get any Rough Seas. We do see Rough Seas come down right after I say that, of course. Healing them 30 damage. I see Glaceon coming down, our Nemesis. And we see an Ultra Ball. So they can just Quaking Punch for the knockout here. I'm not 100% sure if they would want to take the risk of getting knocked out with a Medicham. So they may want to retreat if they can. Even still, it would be very difficult for a Medicham to get a knockout. So we just see a Quaking Punch for the knockout. We will send up... We could send up... I think Carbink Break's probably what we want to send up just because we don't have a very high chance of getting the knockout. We're going to go for the we'll evolve the Medicham. We will probably put down the other Meditite and put the energy down. Won't even put the energy down, actually, because if they get the knockout here, then it was a wasted energy attachment. And I think our opponent probably has a good chance of having a VS Seeker for Hex Maniac and an energy. Presumably they have both as an option. We see the energy going to Articuno, though. And we see an AZ, yep, picking up Hoopa, which makes sense. Do they fill the slot with something else? Looks like they're just going to go for a Quaking Punch. Good thing is it's not doing damage. We could put down a Fighting Stadium, but it just doesn't seem like it would matter at this point. We're not going to be attacking this turn. So we'll see another Rough Seas. I would assume. Yes, healing that 20 damage, so there's no damage on the field. And Articuno could start wrecking havoc. But they will need to make sure that they can hit 2 heads. Or 2 heads with a... So the Fighting Fairy Belt can help them if it's a Carbink Break, because then they just need 2 heads instead of 3. But at the moment, we don't have a Carbink Break. We could just see another Quaking Punch, which would probably be one of the better situations for us. And our opponent's definitely taking their time here. What do they want to do? Ultra Ball. Discarding that Hoopa and a Seismitoad. Regice is also in the discard. Not grabbing anything. Now, in terms of deck out, this game we're doing better in that department. See a Hex Maniac and Energy come down. We're just going to see a Quaking Punch doing only 40 damage. But it does open up the Articuno play next turn. So it may be important for us to retreat. We could also just end our turn and sort of concede that we'll lose the Carbink. We see the retreat. Our opponent just needs one heads here. And there they get it right off the top. And so they are going to take 2 prizes, going down to 3 prizes. Can we respond with an Articuno knockout? We need a strong energy and that Regirock. We're going to put down a Focus Sash. And yeah, I mean, probably going to have to dig for the strong energy. There's only possibly one left in deck. I'll Ultra Ball first just to see what we've got in there. We discard Zero Sick, and yep, let's see what we have in there. There is the strong energy though, so that's definitely what we're going for. And I don't know if we'll grab anything. The Zygarde's also there, which we do want for sure. So maybe we could get it out now. It is a Lysander target for sure. We'll put down the Zygarde. We'll put down Olvia Seeker for an N, actually, because like it's nice to lower their hand size. We'll also play our Fighting Stadium. We will N, and we really need to get that strong energy. And unfortunately, we whiff the strong energy. We do get a couple Carbink though, and we get an energy though. We could attack. We could attach elsewhere perhaps, but at this point, I suppose we'll just attack with Yoga Kick twice. But we won't be getting a knockout. And our opponent can definitely get a knockout this turn, if they so choose. Unfortunately, Rough Sea's coming right back down. We do have another Fighting Stadium to counter with, though. We see a Sycamore. Our opponent down to 8 cards now. But with Shaman on the field, we have some easy prizes. Meditite and Shaman both being easy prizes. We see the Starling Megaphone, unfortunately, that will allow our Medicham to get knocked out in one hit. We see a Energy Switch, so our opponent did play Energy Switch. Fighting Fairy Ball coming down onto Articuno, and we're going to see a Grenade Hammer here for the knockout. Unfortunately, I'm not really sure what the best option is here. I think it might just be to go into the Zygarde at this point. We know we have a strong energy left in deck. We could go into Carbink as well, but I think that it's just asking to be knocked out by an Articuno for the final prize. We'll put down Carbink Break. Could put down Carbink as well. We'll put down a Focus Sash on Carbink Break. We will definitely put down the Stadium as well. And I think we'll put down Carbink, sure. Thinning our hand out. We will go for another N. Putting our opponent down to two cards this time. And we do get the strong energy, thankfully. We will evolve so that it's harder to knock out that Medicham. And we'll just go for a Lance Pulse, doing 90 damage. But our opponent can retreat out of that. And again, we're susceptible to... Wow, so healing off 120 damage there with the Rough Seas. See a Max Elixir late game. Can they hit it? Looks like they do. It goes on to Articuno. An N. And let's see what we get here. A couple Focus Sashes, a couple Karinas. But yeah, not looking good. We can... Our opponent right here, all they need to really do is Grenade Hammer twice. and we can't really defend against that because we're not going to be able to retreat. So, um, yeah, I think that there's really not much left um, for me to do. Maybe it would have been better to go into Carbink break, perhaps, but even still, they only need 2 heads with an Articuno. So we just see the Grenade Hammer. And yeah, we don't get any way to retreat out. Don't think there's a float stone or anything we can. There's really nothing we can grab that helps us. So unfortunately, yeah, a tough matchup. I think maybe in game 1 there were some possibilities for ways to get ourselves in a better position there, but game 2 we kind of got trampled. Just didn't really have much that we could. We couldn't get set up really, and so it hurt. It hurt when you can't get a Carbink break, getting energy out on the field everywhere. And Quaking Punch was actually a pretty big deal. So Seismitoad EX still a relevant factor in this deck. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a good. We know it's a good card, but Quaking Punch actually being really devastating for us. And we'll just do Lance Pulse. Why not? But yeah, fortunately we are gonna fall here, and yeah, I wouldn't have thought that this would be so lopsided, but yeah, definitely was. And we see the retreat from our opponent. Energy switch. Not sure why they're doing this. I guess just to show us they could do it this way and heal damage. I don't know. But they are going to get the knockout with the Mineral Pump, doing 60 damage, knocking out our Zygarde, and ending the game. So we are now 3-1. It's not too bad. And we'll see how we can do in the next round. Maybe we can get ourselves back into the top of the table. Thanks for watching. Bye.